Today, I am trying the 2014 English paper for MEXT Special Training College students. Section 1, Number 1. Blank, you really feel better tomorrow. Stay in bed all day. While, even, unless, then. First off, you can eliminate option 2 and option 4 because even and then are not conjunctions, which means that they cannot connect two clauses together to form one sentence. And between the remaining choices, I have to go with unless. Unless expresses a condition, but it implies a negative meaning, so we can rephrase this sentence as stay in bed all day if you don't really feel better tomorrow. Number 2, I will return the card to Mike the next time I have seen him, will see him, or saw him. Because we have the word will, this sentence is about the future. That's why many people get tempted to choose number 2, will see, but you have to be careful with subordinate clauses. The clause headed by the phrase the next time expresses a condition, in which case the verb in the clause cannot take the auxiliary verb will, and instead the verb has to be in the present tense, so the correct answer should be number 3. Another way to look at this question is to see whether the subordinate clause can be omitted. Would the sentence be complete grammatically if it didn't contain the subordinate clause? So let's have a look. This sentence has a subject, an auxiliary verb, one verb, and the verb return takes one direct object and an indirect object, so the main clause has all the necessary parts. When the subordinate clause is optional, then the verb inside it has to be in the present tense, even when the main clause includes the word will. Number 3, remember which, what, as, that. I have just told you. In this question, you have to focus on the verb told. The verb tell usually requires one direct object and one indirect object, but if you look at the end of the sentence, it only has the indirect object, you, so it's missing the direct object, in which case you have to assume that something must have moved to the front of the sentence or the clause. Among the 4 choices that we've got, the only choice that makes sense is number 2, what, which can stand for the direct object. This what can be replaced with the phrase the thing. So you can say, remember the thing I have just told you. And you can put the thing back here. I have just told you the thing. Number 4, could you please look, watch, catch, keep an eye on my suitcase till I come back. So this question is about the phrase keep an eye on something. So number 4, keep an eye on my suitcase. Number 5, I am afraid there is no use, wish, chance, ability of seeing her. The biggest hint that we have in this question is the preposition of. Number 2, wish, and number 4, ability, usually take the word to. Number 1, use, would take the preposition in. And number 3, chance, can take either to or of. So I'm gonna go with number 3, chance. Number 6, you are responsible by, of, for, in. The adjective responsible takes the preposition for. Number 7, the earthquake was the biggest, so, of, all, one, that I had ever experienced. Because we have a relative clause, that I had ever experienced, we need a noun before it. So I would say number 4, 1, the biggest one that I had ever experienced. Number 8, I felt quite to refreshing, refreshed, after taking a bath. The verb to feel requires an adjective as its complement, so we can eliminate number 1 and number 2 between refreshing and refreshed. Many students fail to see the distinction between these two, but if the word ends in ing, you can imagine an arrow pointing to the right, like this. So the refreshing action is affecting whatever comes to the right of this word. On the other hand, if you see that the word ends in ed, or if the word is in the past participle form, then the arrow points to the left, like this. So the refreshing action affects whatever comes to the left of this word. And in this case, I is the person being refreshed. So I would say number 4. Number 9, do you need most, many, much, a few, exercise to remain healthy. You have to look at the noun exercise and notice that it doesn't end in an S, meaning that this noun is treated as uncountable. The only choices that can modify an uncountable noun are number 1, most, and number 3, much. Most wouldn't make sense, so I would say much exercise. Number 10, I would rather walk to, in, than, for, go by taxi. You have to know the phrase would rather do A than do B. So number 3, than. Number 11, do you think she resemble with, is resembling her mother? The verb to resemble is a transitive verb, so it doesn't want any prepositions after it. So number 1 and number 3 are incorrect. And number 4, is resembling, sounds odd because to resemble doesn't express a continuous action. So I would say number 2, do you think she resembles her mother? Number 12, most people like to make, talk, forecast, things, predictions. Since we are talking about the weather, I would say it's either number 2 or number 4, and we tend to say make a prediction, so I would go with number 4, make predictions. Number 13, the growth in the internet resulted from, results, was resulted, the growth in personal computers. The verb to result takes either in or from. In has to be followed by a consequence, whereas from has to be followed by a cause. This is quite a tricky question, especially for young people who may not know much about the history of the internet. But I would say number 2, the growth in the internet resulted from the growth in personal computers, because the spread of the internet presupposes that everyone already has a computer. Number 14, planter, plant, trees, will lead to a reduction in the amount of CO2 in the air. Since we have the auxiliary verb will here, the preceding 2 words must be the subject, and the only option that can give us a subject is number 1, planting trees. Number 15, scientists were able to explore the deep ocean floor because, as a result, new technologies. After the brackets, we have a noun phrase, new technologies, and the only option that can take a noun phrase is because of. Number 1, due has to be followed by the preposition to, as in due to new technologies. And number 3, because, requires a clause. As a result would need the preposition of, as in as a result of new technologies. Section 2, number 1. Please let me know if you haven't received, didn't received, won't have received, won't receive the parcel by tomorrow. There was a similar question in the previous section, so I won't go into much detail. The word tomorrow indicates that this sentence is about the future, but since we are looking at a subordinate clause headed by if, and this if clearly expresses a condition, the verb in this clause has to be in the present tense. So we have to choose number 1. Number 2, the project will be postponed, is postponing, has postponed, will have been postponed. I would say will be postponed. First of all, number 2 and number 3 wouldn't make sense because the project cannot do the postponing action, so the sentence has to be in the passive voice, which leaves us with number 1 and number 4, but we don't need the future perfect. Number 3, it is important for you to realize, you are important to realize, it is important for you realizing, you are important realizing. This question should be easy for you. The correct answer is obviously number 1. So this clause is in the format. It is an adjective for someone to do something. You should be familiar with this grammar point by now. Number 4, you shouldn't go any farther, better, further, later into the matter. Number 2 and number 4 do not make sense at all. So it's between farther and further. And number 1, farther usually expresses a physical distance, so I would go with number 3, further, which usually deals with an extent rather than a physical distance. Number 5, it's such beautiful a day so, such a beautiful day, a so beautiful day. Number 3, such a beautiful day is clearly the answer. The word such requires a noun phrase, whereas the word so can only take an adjective or an adverb. Number 6, is it possible for them to get there by tomorrow morning? I do not think it. I think it possible. Why not? I'm afraid not. The only choice that sounds natural is number 4. As for number 1, you could say I don't think so. I do not think it doesn't really sound right. I think it possible, again, sounds really strange. And the question, why not, would be an odd thing to say in this context. Number 7, were it, has it, had there, not being for your advice, I would have failed. This is a conditional phrase that you have to know. Had it not been for your advice, I would have failed. So number 3. Number 8, it being the sky, generally speaking the sky, though the sky, judging from the sky, it will snow this afternoon. Number 1, 2, 3 make no sense, so number 4, judging from the sky. Number 9, the service at the hotel was terrible. To say needless, say nothing of, mention needless, mention of the facilities. Okay, number 2, to say nothing of the facilities. This is the only legitimate phrase that exists in the English language. Number 10, I didn't attend the swimming class, and Mary did neither. Either was Mary, neither was Mary, neither did Mary. Okay, number 4. Number 2 is clearly wrong because either is not a negative word. And number 1 is out because neither causes inversion. Number 3 has inversion, but the original sentence didn't include the word was, so it doesn't make sense to include was here. So we are left with number 4, neither did Mary. Number 11, her Japanese novel was superior to Mike's, superior for Mike's, superior as Mike's, superior than Mike's. Okay, the adjective superior compares two things or people, and it requires the preposition to instead of than, which you normally see in comparative sentences. So number 1, superior to Mike's. Number 12, not have received, not received, not having received, not to receive. So this is a question on participle clauses. In a participle clause, the conjunction is omitted, and so is the subject, if the subject of the clause is identical to the subject of the main clause. And as the name participle clause suggests, the verb has to be in the participle form, either the present participle form or the past participle form. So number 1 and number 4 can be eliminated. Number 2 is incorrect because received would be interpreted to be in the past participle form, which then indicates the passive voice. So the only option that makes sense is number 3, having received. Number 13, Kate betrayed Tom. This is how, that is why, in that way, that was a reason. The fact that Kate betrayed Tom is the reason Tom got angry with her. So number 2, that is why. Number 14, he may have read, must not have read, might not have read, should have read the book, but he doesn't really remember the plot. The second clause indicates that he did read the book, so only number 1 makes sense, may have read. Number 15, finishing not her work, not having finished her work, not being finished her work, not finished her work. This is another question on participle clauses. You can refer to the earlier question for my explanation, so I'm just going to give you the answer, not having finished. Section 3. I don't think we had this type of questions in the 2015 paper. Not all the words or phrases in the parentheses may be used. Number 1, we experience on its axis. Okay, what do we experience? Day and night because of the Earth's rotation on its axis. my friends say that this is the subject of the embedded clause, so we can expect a verb. So it's got to be either number 3, see, or number 5, like. So I would say they like to see you very much. Number 3, the artists have, okay. I believe this have indicates the present perfect. The artists have come where? To Japan. Why? For the purpose of promoting their new album. Number 4, it was your book. Okay. It was very kind of you to lend me your book. Number 5, the driver kept the engine running while we waited for Tom. Number 6, people over 70 need not pay admission to this art museum. Number 7, the plants of what? Tropical forest are strongly influenced by physical factors, but that can't be right because I haven't used in, dry, or the. I think the only choice that can be used is number 4, dry. Let's try this again. The plants of the tropical dry forest are strongly influenced by physical factors. Number 8, I owe it to the classwork. Okay, who do I owe it to? To you. So I owe it to you, and that I was able to catch up the classwork. Number 9, it goes without saying that health is more precious than wealth. Number 10, do to others as you would have others do. Section 4. Actually, how many passages do we have to read? 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So 3 passages. As I always say, it is best practice to look at the questions first. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. All of the following are true about Okinawans, except some Okinawans are the poorest people in Japan. There is a high ratio of Okinawans who are more than 100 years old, which is true. When they are older, Okinawans spend their time in convalescent homes. Okay. 4. The average Okinawan woman lives longer than the average Okinawan man, which sounds true. So we only need to check 1 and 2. Check for keywords like poor and convalescent homes. Poor, okay. Some of the people who live there are the poorest people in the country, which pretty much confirms that the correct answer is number 3. But let's check convalescent homes just in case. Where is it? Okinawans don't wait out the final years of their long lives in hospitals or convalescent care facilities. Okay, so I would say number 3. Number 2, the missing word in A is, for example, in fact, furthermore, unfortunately. Where is A? Okay, here. Dementia blah 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 are almost non-existent among these older Okinawans. A, compared to the United States, Okinawa's death rate for coronary heart disease is 80% lower. It's either 1 or 2, but I believe the sentence was presented as a surprising fact, so I would go with number 2. In fact. Number 3, what is not a secret to Okinawans' health and longevity? Doing martial arts, following schedules, unlikely, doing prayer and meditation, drinking water and green tea, vegetables, whole grains, fruit, soy, tofu, fish, water, tea, green tea, martial arts, relaxed schedules, prayer, meditation. The correct answer is number 2, following schedules. Number 4, according to the author, which one is true about older Okinawans? Do not die in hospitals, do not die of heart disease, do not have dementia, do not usually have heart attacks. I believe the first 3 options say too much. There must be at least one who dies in a hospital, or dies of heart disease, or has dementia. In contrast, number 4, has this word usually, which makes this statement more likely to be true. So let's find out if heart attacks are common in Okinawa. Okinawans are more likely than Americans to survive heart attacks on the rare occasions that heart attacks occur. So that confirms that number 4 is the correct answer. Number 5. Which of the following is not supported by the passage? 1. Although some Okinawans are poor, they are rich in living a long life, which sounds true. 2. Okinawans in Brazil are genetically different from Okinawans in Japan. I don't think so. So number 2 is probably the answer, but let's keep reading. 3. Okinawans' diet consists of vegetables, whole grains, fish, soy, and fruit. This was mentioned in the passage, so this is true. 4. Okinawans' behavior is important in sustaining their long lives, which is obviously true, so number 2 must be the correct answer. Section 5. As always, let's look at the questions first. Number 1. Which word in the reading passage above means the same as frantic? I already know what this means, so I know that the answer is number 2, hectic. It basically means busy. For those of you who didn't know what this meant, you should be able to guess what it means from the context. So let's see where this word is used in the passage. Actually, Tuesdays can be quite hectic. Workers are arriving at work fairly frantic. And so, in 10 hours, they're doing 20 hours work. That's productive, but it's also tough. The preceding sentence contains the synonym hectic. That's one hint. And these 4 sentences that I read should give you some idea as to what the passage might be about. Number 2. According to the passage, which of the following is not true about Tuesdays? You should wish for a week of Tuesdays. What does that mean? 2. Your boss wishes for a week of Tuesdays. Okay. 3. Managers should wish for a week of Tuesdays. 4. You probably do not dream about a week of Tuesdays. Since I haven't read the passage, none of these sentences makes any sense. So let's look for the word Tuesdays. You may dream about a month of Sundays, but your boss wishes for a week of Tuesdays. Workers are most productive on Tuesdays. The question said is not true, so number 1, you should wish for a week of Tuesdays because you, being the average worker, are meant to wish for a week of Sundays, not Tuesdays. Number 3, the following question can be added to the passage. There are reasons why the other days aren't productive, but what makes Tuesday special? Where would it best fit in? 1, 2, 3, 4. A recent poll shows that workers are most productive on Tuesdays. An employment agency conducted a national survey of office managers. 48% of the managers polled said that Tuesday is by far the most productive day of the week. A close analysis of work week rhythms would turn up some obvious reasons for those survey results. First of all, Monday is overloaded with meetings designed to get things moving. On Thursday, people are running out of steam, and Friday, everybody's thinking about the weekend. Tuesdays, employees hit peak performance because they are very focused on day-to-day activities. I would say number 4. If you insert that sentence here, what makes Tuesday special? The following sentence provides the answer to the question. Number 4, which day of the week are we most productive after Tuesdays? Okay, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. While Monday is considered second in productivity value, only 9% of office managers think Wednesday is the peak productivity day. 5% believe it is Thursday, and Friday, well, you can just imagine. So the answer should be Monday, considered second in productivity value. Number 5, according to the passage, how can the peaks and valleys of the work week be reduced? 1. Prevent fatigue and increase productivity. 2. Cancel meetings on Mondays. 3. Reschedule deadlines to other days. 4. Reschedule meetings to Tuesdays. Peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. Some suggest avoid jamming meetings into Mondays. Deadlines rescheduled to stretch out the workflow. Variations in productivity. Both workers and bosses win when the peaks and valleys are less dramatic. I believe number 3 was mentioned in the part that I've just read. Reschedule deadlines to other days. Stretch out. And the final section, read the passage, then read the following sentences 1 to 10 and write T if the sentence is true and F if it is false. The instruction says read the passage, but I'll go straight to the questions. Number 1, the internet is available everywhere in the world and is used for everything. There are still places in the world where you can't access the internet, so the technical answer should be F. But let's see what the passage says. The internet is everywhere, and it is loved and used by everyone for everything. Does that mean the same thing as the internet is available everywhere? It does seem that way. If the answer is true, then I don't agree with the answer. Number 2, our frequent use and access to the internet is not without disadvantages. I think the answer is true. Number 3, the internet originated with research of military projects in universities. The origin of the internet. Military, internet, computers. Okay, so not universities. This part, in universities, is false, which makes the whole sentence false. Number 4, the internet was not always available to the general public, which is true. Number 5, the internet has become our best friend in the 21st century. What does it mean, our best friend? It sounds like it's supposed to be true. Just look at all the things we like to do with our new number 1 companion of the 21st century. Number 6, correspondence with friends is the primary way in which the internet is used. I don't know if that's actually the case. They use the internet to stay in touch with others on the internet. Most of us say that writing or receiving email is our number 1 use of the internet. Correspondence is king of internet use. I don't think it says anywhere in the passage that people use the internet primarily to correspond with friends, which makes number 6 false. Number 7, for students, researching online means more time spent copying articles. Does it say anything about copying? As students, we no longer have to search through dusty books and spend money copying articles to get our research done. That means this statement is false, because we no longer have to spend time copying articles. Number 8, travel agents and travel agencies are no longer able to arrange trips, which is obviously false. Number 9, e-commerce is where goods and services are bought and sold online. That is the definition of e-commerce, so it's true. Number 10, in this passage, the internet is described as being irresistible, convenient, and life-changing. I think that's true. I believe the first sentence of the passage included the word irresistible. Here it is. And overall, the passage described the internet as a positive invention, so I would say true. And that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know, and see you next time.